providing insight and resources for your spiritual journey. Unity Online Radio.
Thank you for tuning in for this Unity Partner Program. Unity Online Radio partners with spiritual leaders from organizations whose mission and messages complement Unity's. We are pleased to bring you this program on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
Welcome to Living on Purpose with psychology doctoral candidate Jessie Herriott from Atlanta, Georgia. Are you ready to make a switch? A switch from barely living to living on purpose. During the next hour, you will discover principles to help you live a fully functioning, conscious, and purposeful life. The all is mind, and so are you. Let's live on purpose. Now, here's your host, Jessie Herriott.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Living on Purpose. I'm your host, Jessie Herriott, where the goal of our show is to help you engage life more fully, to become more of your authentic self. And on this week, we're going to be delving a little deeper into consciousness. We want to expand your awareness so that you can become more and more of yourself, so you can allow the life of God, which is your life, to flow through you, and so that you can be a channel for the divine. Without further ado, folks, I just want to jump into what we have for you guys, an exciting conversation. We're picking up, this is going to be part 2. If you missed the first part, which was with Rev Ro, where we talked about unveiling consciousness, you want to check out the archives and get that. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest for this week. Her name is Rev Rowena Silvera. She is the senior minister and spiritual director of A Different Thought spiritual community right here in Decatur, Georgia. She's an international speaker and life coach, and she is the author of the current book. It's about to be released, I believe, The Dig, 101 Questions in Consciousness. Welcome to the show this week, Rev Rowena Silvera. Rev Ro, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Jesse, and how are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Happy to be back.
Yes, ma'am. We are going to pick up where we left off, folks. You are in for a treat. We are unveiling consciousness and helping to expand your awareness so that you can be more and more yourself. Rev Ro, when we left off on last week, I believe we were just getting into talking about the shadow self. But for those that are just listening into the program this week and haven't heard the archive yet, could we start from the top and just kind of go in briefly to all the 7, start by listing them, and then kind of briefly explaining them for the listening audience?
Sure. Well, we're talking about consciousness today, and consciousness is how we relate to our world, the way we think in relation to our world. And our world differs depending on who you are. We have participation in the unified field of existence. We all do. And then we have our individual worlds. Right. So what informs that world is our consciousness. And what does that really mean? I mean, how do I access my consciousness? What is that? We use the word a lot, especially in New Thought, but what does it really mean? And I think that the consciousness is the body of our life, or our life's work so far, that feeds into how we move and act and think in the present moment. So the 7 veils of consciousness, the first veil is experience, your life experiences and the walk that you've walked until the present moment, your tribal system, societal beliefs and family beliefs. We have the physicality, how you feel in your physical body. Are you well or you're not feeling so good? That. And then number 4, shadow. And we left off the shadow the last time. And the shadow is that dark, murky, repressed, suppressed area, the aspect of ourselves that many times we do not like to look at. Yeah. It holds a very interesting mix of emotions and thoughts and vibrations. Often the shadow is the part that we just dismiss. It's the anger, it's the fear, it's the rage. However, in that sort of collection, there is a streak of creativity that runs through the shadow.
Oh, wow, that's powerful right there. Say that one more time.
They're the streak of creativity that runs through our shadow.
Wow.
So for all the bad that we think the shadow holds, there's also a beautiful streak of creative light that runs through it.
Mm.
So our job is not to try to overcome the shadow. We don't ever overcome it. I don't believe we do. But I think we can manage it.
Yes.
And we manage it. We manage it by being aware that it exists and think about the things that may contribute to that shadow aspect of the self. All the while holding in that beautiful voice we have, singing voice, or that artistic way we have with paint, or the way we speak, the spoken word, our writing. Different aspects of creativity are also in that shadow space.
Very true, very true.
So
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to say that. So we don't want to dismiss the shadow.
Right.
We want to be mindful that it exists, be mindful that it, just like the egoic energy and impulse, and some people say the ego and the shadow is the same thing. I think there's some slight differentiations, but I do believe that we have to be mindful of it. And that's the whole thing about the seven veils of consciousness. It's just being mindful about what makes us us.
That's very true. So, Rev Ro, in your opinion, what is it? Because from my own personal work, it's difficult to engage these parts of yourself because Joseph Campbell, who's a mythologist, he talks about it when he teaches on the hero's journey, and you can find it in every mythology. And Carl Jung wanted to know, well, what is it about us that makes us, repress? What is it about our psyche, our soul that makes us repress and things go into that element? But how can we, before we get into that, how can we make that switch so that we can become aware of that shadowy aspect of ourselves? Because, if you're conscious, if you're not conscious, if you're on autopilot, it's difficult to engage yourself. Things just kind of fly by, time passes. But how do we slow things down so that we can become aware of these different, veils within ourselves, particularly the shadow?
Well, you mentioned Joseph Campbell. And Joseph Campbell, one of the anchors of the hero's journey, one of the major anchors of the hero's journey, is the call to adventure.
Right.
So if we begin to look at our life as an adventure, and there is a call to an adventure, there is a process to uncovering the self, and it begins with the willingness to embark on an adventure. So for the self, perhaps the adventure is going inward and saying, well, this is how my life has manifested. This is how it looks today. This is how I'm walking in the world. How did I get here? What thoughts, what energies brought me to the place that I am at right now? And if you're in a great place, then you're in a great place. You're doing it right. You don't have to dig too deep. But for most of us, there are things that we want to change. There's things that need to be challenged in the self. Stephen Covey says, I'm paraphrasing him, that we all have this power to choose and the power to respond to change. But I believe that we can't choose and we can't respond to change until we know what we're talking about. Wow,
that's powerful. That's powerful. So we have to begin by asking these types of questions or having this dialogue with ourselves. Even if, like how you said, even if you are in a good place, because all of us have these. They may not be, as I hate to say big or little in comparison to others, but all of us have something. These are all parts of ourselves that we carry around because we take in so much throughout the day. Images and feelings and all sorts of things come through into our perception and does enter into, our awareness.
Exactly, Jesse. And the thing that we have to be mindful of is, you said we take in so many things within the day. So let's think about that. All the things that we may take in the next 24 hours. Well, what about the last 169 hours? What about the last month, the last 12 months? Then you start to multiply the last 12 months, however old you are, and it's just a constant flow of information.
Right.
And if it's not processed, at some point, you're going to have a log jam, a confusion, a nervous breakdown, fear, anxiety, depression. That's what those things are.
Right, because these things can creep up in our behavior. Carlton Pearson says something. He says, have you ever seen yourself through the eyes of the person that you have become? And, for those that are feeling like, they're on that verge of they're in that process of becoming. They're trying to reach towards something, but they haven't quite attained it yet. This is very helpful for you because this will help you to make that extra step so that you can complete your journey. You have to ask the question and don't be ashamed at the answer. Because, sometimes when you're addressing these parts of yourself, you might get some answers that'll scare you, almost as if it's another person in there.
You got it. And that's why we ask the questions.
Mm-hmm.
This is exactly why we ask the questions. Because we think we know what the answer is. But once you start to drill down into your own psyche, into your own heart and mind and energy and family and thoughts, then you're like, oh, the big O comes out. You're like, oh, I see now. And that's why the shadow aspect is so important. Because if I understand my shadow, at least some of it, I may not understand it all, but if I understand my shadow, I understand my triggers. And if I understand my triggers, I can control my behavior.
This is amazing. So, Rev Ro, in your counseling sessions, when you encounter people that seem to be processing or functioning from that realm, and they're struggling with addictions, what's your explanation for addictions? How do we develop addictions?
Addictions are simply coping mechanisms, a distraction that keeps us from ourselves. Ultimately, I think that we sometimes have a problem with our own divinity. We have a problem with our own perfection. We live in a world that says you're not perfect unless you do or have this. You're not perfect because of this. You're not perfect because of what somebody told you when you were 9. So we grow up with this consciousness of imperfection, when in truth, the essence of who we are is perfect, even though we sometimes demonstrate imperfect behavior. So addiction says to me, well, look, I'll come over, addiction or the shadow or the ego comes over and says, listen, I'm going to put this space between you and your divinity, and I'm going to make you feel better. And the funny thing about addiction is that initially it does.
Right.
Or we don't get addicted. The ego feels good, or we don't get attached to it. The shadow behavior, the rage, the anger, the lashing out, initially feels good. It just doesn't feel good once we calm down.
Right, very true.
That's why we're addicted to things, and then we become physically addicted sometimes, and so then it's a big sort of circus of events that goes on to lead us to the same 3 rings all the time. We're still doing that same dance all the time. We're engaging in addiction, fighting in addiction, then re-engaging in addiction. We start it, we fight it, then we re-engage. And as long as we're distracted in that 3-ring circus, we never get to the part about, you know what, I really don't even have to do this. It's a choice.
Right. Right. And so you always have that power of choice. You always have that. How do we free ourselves from this type of behavior? How do we get free?
Well, the first thing I would suggest to anybody is to really understand and to find the breath. Your breath is amazing. When you take a moment to just inhale and exhale, you automatically create a space between you and the event. Whatever is happening in your life, and you can do this anywhere. You can do this in the boardroom. You can do this in a family situation, in relationships. Just instead of reacting, respond with a deep breath. It gives you the minute to think. Then you ask your higher power, as you understand your higher power, to flood you.
Right.
And then you begin to think of however you identify your higher power. I need to work out of that voice. I need to work out of that space. And I'm angry in this moment, or I'm hurt in this moment, or I'm feeling betrayed in this moment. And I'm going to take the time now to breathe and then ask myself why. So once I start engaging with myself in the healing of myself, I really don't have the time to deal with what's happening outside of me.
Right.
And that automatically shifts the dynamic.
It does. And oh my God, that's a mouthful, folks. I hope you are definitely taking notes. And if you're on your jobs and listening, please go back and download the archives. You can download them for free after 6 p.m. Central Time on today. But that's amazing that you said we can actually step back, and that's one of the reasons why we're self-conscious beings. We can actually become aware of our feelings and our emotions and step back out of them, because we're deeper than that. We're the witnessing awareness. We're the ones in which the happenings come and go through, like Deepak Chopra says. So we can actually take a step back. And you said the way to do that is to become aware of the breath, because your breath, the ruach spirit, it becomes the space, between yourself and the event. That's powerful.
And we want to take that breath all the time, all of the time. Just, you can turn your back in a room and just, gaze at the wall or move away from a crowd for a moment and just find that breath, and you making a decision in finding that breath. So that's what's important, which leads us to number 5, emerging and developing thought. This is the birthing process. We have to be aware of how we function and flow, Jesse. We live in a society that says this is how you get things done. This is how you move through life. And if you do not fit into that box, if you do not fit into that criteria, something is wrong with you. So we take the something is wrong with me, and we spend a great part of our lives trying to push ourselves into a space that's not made for us.
Wow.
A long time. We do it forever. We try to become bankers when we really have no interest in finance. We try to become artists when we're always trying to be something because, well, the society says if you're a doctor, lawyer, engineer, that's good. So I need to find a way to fit myself into one of those categories, even though maybe you are the poet.
That's true.
You are the philosopher.
And that's
you
amazing.
You got to find your flow.
Yes. Find your flow, folks. Find your flow. That is powerful. That really helps me. And you know what, Rev? I totally agree with you. And for some, you may have to go through a process of decompression, or you may have to go through that alchemical process, where you're letting go. Because in order to start from where you are with what you have, and in order to find your flow, sometimes it comes with the recognition that things around you aren't working. And you have to be willing to let them go.
And you have to have the skills. And the thing is, Jesse, you just said decompression. And if you don't go through that alchemical process, if you don't go through the decompression, what you're going to get is depression.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's very true.
We have a lot of folks that are walking around with a tremendous amount of depression and anxiety and fear and sort of walking through life with it as if they have to own that. You don't have to own those things.
Right. And that's true. And folks, we are talking about beyond the surface kind of thinking, because even infection swells. Sometimes, things can look good and they can look perfect, but at some point they will crumble. And if you follow the steps and use the tools, this will help you before you reach that point. Because once you've reached that point, there is a process for you, but so that you won't have to, because life isn't designed to be hard. Life is trying to help you. What you are seeking is seeking you. But first you have to position yourself and become that channel so that it can get to you and then move through you.
Exactly. Find your flow and how you function. Your life automatically changes when you honor yourself and your own pace.
This is beautiful. Folks, we are going to have to take a quick commercial break. I'm Jesse Herriott, talking today with Rev Rowena Silvera, Senior Minister and Spiritual Director of A Different Thought. When we return, we'll continue the conversation with Rev Rowe next on Living on Purpose.
When listeners like you contribute to the Unity Online Radio Network, you're making a positive difference in your life and the lives of other spiritual seekers. To contribute, visit www.unity.fm and make a one-time donation or sign up for monthly contributions. Thank you for your support.
you come here to be? It's a question we all ponder from time to time. Reverend Kelly Isola, host of Spiraling Consciousness, and her co-authors have crafted a guidebook that will take you on a profound journey. If you long for love, peace, and joy, or yearn for commitment, passion, calm, or clarity, this book teaches you that you already have all of these within you. Whatever you long to experience outside of you is an aspect of you wanting to be birthed. Who have you come here to be? 101 Possibilities for Contemplation is part daily reader, part spiritual practicum. Drenched in gorgeous imagery, each powerful page invites readers to dance, to leap, to sit still, to stand tall as they ponder the question, who have I come here to be? Join the journey of self-discovery. Come explore the world within, an infinite field of possibilities, to discover who have you come here to be. To order your copy of Who Have I Come Here to Be? 101 Possibilities for Contemplation, go to www.whohaveyoucomeheretobe.com. That's www.whohaveyoucomeheretobe.com.
Si alguna vez te has preguntado, ¿quién soy yo realmente? ¿De dónde vengo? ¿Cuál es mi destino? Café Metafísico con Norma Iris y Lina es el programa para encontrar contestaciones, aceptar tu grandiosidad y permitir que tu luz brille. Te invitamos a que cada miércoles a las 4 de la tarde, hora del centro de los Estados Unidos, vayas a unity.fm y hagas clic en Café Metafísico, donde tus anfitrionas Norma Iris y Lina te esperan para apoyarte en tu viaje espiritual. No lo olvides, Café Metafísico y con sabor a montaña, desde unity.fm, la voz de un mundo que despierta.
You've been listening to Living on Purpose with Jesse Herriott. If you have a question or comment about today's broadcast, or if you'd like to join in the discussion, friend us on Facebook at Jesse Herriott or email us at livingonpurpose@unity.fm. Now, more Living on Purpose.
Thank you, folks, for tuning back in to Living on Purpose. I'm your host, Jesse Herriott. We're talking today with Rev Rowe. And if you're in the Decatur, Georgia area or ever in Georgia, please stop by and see her. Powerful, powerful teacher and luminous person. Our website is www.adretreat.com. And we'll give you more information at the end of the show. But to jump back in, Rev Rowe, we were talking about number 5 briefly. Can you state it for us?
Sure. Number 5 was emerging and developing thought. It's the birthing process. It's what's seeking to come and emerge from us. But in order for that to happen in a beautiful way, we must be aware of how we function and flow. We can't work in the energy and the function and flow of somebody else or somebody's timeline. We have to find out how we flow. For example, I'll give you a quick example. Some people are people who know that an exam is due or paper is due, and 3 weeks ahead of time, they put it together, they're ready. A week before, they're just sort of checking it up over, and they're done. That's another person has the same assignment and waits until the night before to do it. Well, the person who waits until the night before now begins to berate themselves. Why can't I do this 3 weeks ahead of time? Why am I always late? Why do I procrastinate? Why do I do this? So in addition to having to do this paper and to produce this document, you now have an additional sort of self-esteem issue. I'm not good enough. I'm inadequate. I don't measure up. If you accepted your own flow and function, then what you would say to yourself is, I know I'm not going to do this till the night before. So what I'll do is I'll just jot down notes as I go along. As I think of something that might be helpful, I'll write it down. I'll write it on the back of an envelope. I'll put it on a little note on the fridge. And the night before, I'll have enough of my little jots in order to produce this paper. And that's just the way I flow. So it's acknowledging and honoring yourself in your process.
Right. Finding out how you flow and how you work. And that's what we are all about. This is how you really engage life and become more active in it. And life becomes less burdensome, because life is designed to be easy. Life is God. This is the life. And the way that you really worship God, according to Bishop Spong, is to fully live if God is life.
Yes. So as you are a divine emanation of the one, then you have to do it in your own. It's like a flower in a garden. Well, I love roses, and I also love other types of plants. I love ivy. I love daisies. I love all types of plants, but they're all different.
Right.
So I wouldn't want a garden of all roses. I kind of want to mix it up a little bit.
Right.
And that's how we are. We're divine emanations. We're here to mix it up.
It's amazing. It reminded me of Susan Cain when she was on the show. She said that she spent time in the corporate world as an attorney, and she said she loved it and everything, but she said she spent all that time only to discover that she was inwardly a psychologist. So, discovering who you are and how you work and whether or not you're an introvert, an extrovert, and delving into your personality, all of this helps you to become more and more you. So, number 6.
Get past what you think you're supposed to be.
Yes.
So number 6 is the gathering. We're always gathering and assessing new information. We always have a stream of information coming in. Before the internet, we were the internet. We had access to all sorts of information. Every time you walk down the street and you see it triggers something in your mind. Oh, I remember. Or you may meet somebody and they may tell you something. You read a book, it says something. You listen to a tape. You go to a lecture. We're constantly taking in information. That information has a need to be processed. I need to kind of sift through what I'm taking in, get rid of what I don't need, and incorporate into my life the things that are meaningful and helpful to me. So just vast, crazy amounts of information is not good. You need to say, you know what, I'm not interested in that. But you know what? This was an amazing piece of information, an amazing piece of wisdom, an amazing piece of knowledge. Let me focus in and learn more about this. That's your call telling you what you're interested in.
Oh, wow. So it gravitates. You kind of feel a connection to it. That's amazing. And I had a question in regards to that. You said something about how we process and receive information, and my question to you was about how we receive answers. Because everyone, we're always asking questions, and the universe is always responding, but we aren't always in tune sometimes. And a lot of times these questions and these answers, they come in different ways. You can be driving and you'll see a billboard. You can hear a message. You can overhear a conversation, or it can be just a direct intonation from deep within you. But it comes by expanding your awareness.
It does. And Jesse, it comes, asking a question is the same way if I were to ask you a question. If I ask you a question and I know you have information about a certain subject like psychology, I need to wait for your answer. If I ask you a question about psychology and begin to answer the question before you open your mouth, I'm not going to get any information, any valuable information. That's sometimes what we try to do with the universe. We ask the question, well, what's my purpose? What's my calling? What am I here to do? Oh, I don't know, nothing, probably nothing. You know what? Never mind. Or I'm going to become an accountant. Or we jump in with the answer.
Right.
And I'll tell you, the universe will send you signals. And for me, I know throughout my life, I'm one of those people, you got to tell me 2 and 3 times. So I'll say, okay, I think this is what you're saying, Divine. I think this is what you're saying, God, but could you make it clear for me? Make it plain. And it will be made plain for you. Right.
That's powerful. There's an individual, I believe I'm pronouncing his name right. I think his name is Dr. Kirby. He wrote a book on SE, synchronistic experiences. And sometimes I found that the universe, and it's sort of funny. It's like an inside joke sometimes, because I'll ask a question and, then I let it go. I let it go and just engage life. And I'll be somewhere, like I was in a bookstore, and it felt like I was just drawn to this particular section. And I looked at the cover of the book, and I was actually studying synchronicities. And lo and behold, I ran into this book. And it kind of stood out at me. You know, I just followed the feeling. And the feeling led me to the bookstore, and lo and behold, I picked up, and there was my answer right there, and it was kind of funny. It was like someone was orchestrating, you know, something, or like there was an inside joke, like, let's see if Jesse can pay attention and get the answer. Let's see how long it'll take Jesse to get the answer. But in all, I know now from personal experience from that and other experiences that the universe is conspiring so that I can win. It's trying to get the answers to me.
Yes, always for your good. Jesse, we're all vibrational beings. Mm-hmm. So you walking into that bookstore and attracting that book, it's because that's the vibration you sent out. It's not the thought so much. It's not, I want to think it. It's the vibration that attracts you to what you want. So that's why that's important. And we can do a whole other show on vibration, but everything vibrates. It moves. Nothing is still, whether you see it or not. So the law is always working together to tune in to your highest frequency. And that high frequency comes through your thoughts and your emotions. That's how you produce a vibration, and that's how you attract.
And that's powerful. Everyone knows about the laws of attraction, but if you study the Kybalion, for example, one of my teachers, Dr. Coleman, talks about that, and it was written by 3 initiates. There are some that say it was written by Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great Hermes, but we're not going to get into that. But anyway, one of the laws, the 7 Hermetic principles, is the law of attraction, but there's another one which you named it, the law of vibration. Everything
Law number 3, I believe it is. I think it's number 3, law of vibration. Everything vibrates.
Everything, exactly. And that's funny. So, and it makes me think about subjectivity, because I believe, and you can let me know about, your beliefs as well and what you think about it, but vibration occurs on a subjective level. It isn't, like you said, it's beyond thought. It kind of sort of resonates with feeling almost, because you can think something, but you could be vibrating, or like we used to say back in the day, I'm not that old, but how they used to say back in the day, yeah, we really vibed. We had good feelings,
Yes. It's what that was called the feeling tone. The feeling tone of something. So the vibration is, with the law of attraction, that's a whole other story, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't think sometimes it's clear enough for people. I think they think if they just think it, but we don't think anything usually consistently.
Yeah.
But when we do think something consistently, and that constant thought now becomes a feeling.
Yeah.
And that feeling releases a tone or a vibration. This is the signal to the universe. So that's why you can say, you can vibrate yourself into poverty. You can vibrate yourself into wealth. You can vibrate yourself into joy. You can vibrate yourself into depression. And the words are important, because what happens is the thought becomes the words, and the words become the thought, and they go back and forth, tick-tock, 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 up and down, up and down, up and down. Ooh, now I have a feeling about something. And I begin to vibrate from that. And some of the shadow feelings.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we are vibrating individuals. You can feel when a person, is welcoming and open, and you can feel, when they don't want to be bothered. So we do send off that vibration, and sometimes your mind is blank. You're not even thinking at all, but you're still sending off that vibe, that energy, because everything is energy.
It is, and, this is what the veils tell us. That vibration sometimes comes from something in one of those veils that we are not aware of. So we say, I would never bring this into my life. I would never think it vibrated. I didn't speak about this. But the vibration comes from something you're unaware of. That's why it's important to be mindful of how you function and how your consciousness works. So if I start to attract something that I cannot hook it to anything in my immediate world, I might say to myself, wait a minute, hold on. Is this something from childhood? Is this something I heard and I accepted to be true? Where could this be coming from? What's the root? Because there's no fruit without a root.
Exactly.
So whatever you're manifesting comes out of the root.
It's true. Reverend Ike used to always talk about fulfillment. He used to also talk about fulfillment. Get full of the feeling, what he would always say.
Full of the feeling.
Yeah, you can't neglect your feelings. If you're upset, you can't, think it away. I'm not upset. Recognize the feelings, and like Rev Rose said, realize where they're coming from, which requires you to go within. But then also by bringing your attention to it, and like you said, the breath, you realize that, you know what, this is what I feel right now, but I'm even bigger than my feelings. You know, I can tell my mind what to think, and I can tell my body what to feel at some point, but you have to, in a sense, recognize these feelings. You can't suppress them, because if you suppress them, they're going to sink deeper into your consciousness.
Exactly. And you know what, sinks deeper into our consciousness and goes into the shadow collection.
Mm-hmm. Which is probably
that dark
large.
Shadow collection in the back of the closet.
Yeah.
You know, there's a whole, what is it, like a steamer trunk full of shadow.
Exactly. And, you know,
there's some good things in there, too, but you got to kind of wade your way through.
Yeah, like you said, there is a stream of creativity in there. And, you know, if you don't, and it's funny, we talked about Joseph Campbell earlier. He talked about myths, and Jung also talked about dreams. But at night, you know, when our conscious mind is down, we experience these elements of ourselves, and we have all these dreams, you know, at night. We have these reoccurring myths and motifs that happen at night, and we experience these parts of ourselves. You know, folks, your dreams are very important, and we would definitely love to bring you back on, Rev, and get into that a little more at some point. But pay attention to your dreams, because a lot of times you receive messages through your dreams as well.
Absolutely, Jesse. And, you know, we all have a story. So what we want to do is to identify, what is my story? What is my theme? You know, if I were a book, what would my title be? Right.
Oh, that's powerful. And, you know,
our
experience...
Because then you start to understand.
Mm-hmm.
You go.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say it reminds me of our experiences, because every time we experience something, we always wrap a story around it, you know?
Exactly.
And it has to do with our perception and how we perceive the world. And a lot of times, our ability to overcome something or move past something is because of the story we tell ourselves about it. Every time we experience something, we wrap a story around it. We're storytellers. It's a part of our nature. We're collective dreamers. You know, we experience things, and archetypes and all. And Jung talked about two types of, I have to just say this. He talked about an individual type, and he also talked about a collective type, meaning there are individual archetypes and images that are just connected with you in your particular stream of life. But then there's also a collective type where you can pull from collective experiences of the world, you know, and interpret your dreams. So, folks, please pay attention to your dreams if you're listening to this, and also use those symbols and to help interpret your life, to determine where you are, you know?
Jesse, that's great that you mentioned that, because that brings us to number 7, which is collective consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talked a little bit earlier, I talked about your family, your tribal systems, your societal beliefs, expectations of the family, and so forth. But the collective consciousness is what you just got through talking about. It is the whole human record, the entire history. And sometimes we're pulling from that. So we're pulling from thousands and thousands and thousands of years and human beings and different types of human beings in different settings. And all of that is sort of in this big space in our consciousness, and we pull from it, and we don't even know it. So we're living out of all of these things. We're living out of, you know, our experiences, and we're living out of our tribal beliefs and our physicality and the shadow, and we're living out of the emerging and developing thoughts that are coming in and through us, and then we're living out of the gathering of this information we're trying to process, and then the collective consciousness, which is the big one because it's so hard to tap into. And all of that makes us who we are.
Right.
And if I'm walking through the world unaware that all of this exists behind stage, and I appear on the stage as an actor, and I'm playing a part, but I don't know where the lines came from, that, you know, that really affects my life.
It does. It does.
Yeah, I need to know why I'm walking the way I walk in the world, why I navigate certain situations and relationships the way I do, why I have a fear of intimacy, what makes me happy, what brings joy to me. Do I know where my creativity is? How do I maximize that creativity? What am I here to do? What's my passion, my purpose, and my calling? I need to know all of these things in order to have a wonderful and effective life.
Very true. And on that note, we have to take a quick commercial break. Today, we are in the flow with Rev Ro. My name is Jesse Herriott. Rev Ro is the Senior Minister and Spiritual Director of a Different Thought Spiritual Community in Decatur, Georgia. When we return, we'll continue the conversation with Rev Ro.
There is peace.
Have you ever experienced the silence? If you're someone who balks at the idea of spending extended time in silence, and the very thought of it makes you say, I could never do that, then we have the perfect retreat to make a convert of you. Join Reverend Paulette Pipe for the Touching the Stillness Retreat, October 4th through the 7th, 2012 at Unity Village.
Being in the silence is easier than you think and more rewarding than you can imagine. Beginners and advanced meditators alike will be enriched as together we co-create a safe, sacred environment that incorporates just the right amount of soul-nourishing prayer and meditation practices to usher us deeper and deeper into the silence. Not only will you likely achieve a transformative experience of the divine, but once you've touched the stillness, you may wish for even more time to hush and listen.
Reverend Paulette Pipe, host of the Touching the Stillness program on Unity Online Radio, invites you to explore the silence with her during the Touching the Stillness Retreat, October 4th through the 7th, 2012. Make your reservation for this retreat now. Go to touchingthestillness.org and click on Calendar. That's touchingthestillness.org.
There is hope that is growing.
Is there a difference between the spiritual teachings you know and how you live your life? Does your day-to-day experience reflect what you truly value? Are you ready to receive your life and live the gift that you are? Join Janice Campbell, licensed Unity teacher, author, and coach each week as she shares inspiration and tools to help you identify and dissolve the limiting beliefs that prevent you from living the fullest expression of what you are. Talk with Janice live every Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central on Receive Your Life, only on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
You've been listening to Living on Purpose, where psychology meets spirituality. Now, here is your host, Jesse Herriott.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you've missed it, we are talking about, we're digging into consciousness, and the theme of the show is Unveiling Consciousness. We're talking with Rev Ro. For those of you that missed it, you can definitely go to the website, www.unity.fm, and click on Program Archives. It'll be on the right-hand side of your screen, and click on the show, Living on Purpose with Jesse Herriott. The show will be available for download after 6 p.m. Central Time. Download it for your library. It is downloadable and compatible with any of your devices, MP3, iPod, etc. Play it in your car, put it up for later, listen to it over and over again, let it soak into your consciousness, because this is good stuff. To pick up where we left off, Rev, before we get to there, can you, for those of you that are just listening, can you list all 7 of the veils?
I will. Experience is our first veil. It's our life experiences, the walk that we've walked to this moment. Mm-hmm. Second is our tribal system, our societal and family beliefs, expectations that come from family belief systems. Our physicality, how we physically feel, if we're in a good space physically or not, and that makes a difference. Our shadow, the dark, murky place, our repressed and suppressed side that although it holds some of the, what we would call ugly parts of ourselves, which there's really no ugly parts of ourselves, but the things that we deem as society that are lovable. In that, there's a creative flow that runs through that. So we have to be able to manage our shadow so the shadow doesn't manage us. Mm-hmm. And then we go from shadow, which is our fourth veil, to number 5, which is emerging and developing thought. It's the birthing process. It's what's inside of us that needs to come out and be shared with the planet. but we must be aware of how we function and flow in order to process through that. And I can't work in Jesse's flow or Susie's flow. I have to work in my own flow, and I have to identify that in order to be able to maximize it.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the gathering, because we're always gathering information every day, and every moment we're gathering some piece of information, and we have to be able to sort of sort through that and keep what works for us and get rid of what doesn't work for us, because along our life we've pulled in so much information that probably didn't serve us.
Mm-hmm.
Well-intentioned people giving sometimes very bad advice. So we've taken in so much that now that we're more aware, we have to be able to sort through that ourselves. And then, of course, the collective consciousness, which Jung has done an exhaustive work on. But in essence, it's the consciousness or the thoughts and emotions and energies that we pull from all of history, the entire history of humanity. So that's a lot.
Yes, folks, you definitely want to go back and listen to the show.
It's the big tribe.
Yeah, it is. So, real quick, Rev, what are some tools that you use to help you work through these different aspects of the self or different aspects of consciousness?
Well, Jess, I tell you that the first thing you have to do is be aware and want to do it. You have to understand that the way your life appears for you in the moment, it's not working for you. There's so much more. So sometimes when I coach people or I meet people, they will say, "Oh, my life is this," and they give me all the list of the problems. And then I say, well, do you know how you got here? And then they just list some more problems. But they really are not self-aware. So I think in order to become self-aware, we have to stop and say, okay, I'm in this space right now. It's not working for me. Let me think about it. Just take a piece of paper and a pen and think, what do I think contributed to me being here? And then when you get there, you're going to dig a little bit deeper. Well, that's how got me here. Or what was before that? And then what was before that? Until you hear, oh, really? Oh, I see it. So I don't pay my bills on time, or I have problems with finances, whatever the situation may be. Then you continue to go back, and then you realize that you got a message very early that money was scarce, life is suffering and sacrifice. And you may have heard that maybe when you were 4, 5, 7 years old. So you began to function out of that consciousness. So now life is hard, things are scarce, and you think, well, it's just my life is like this. No. Your consciousness is like that.
Right, and that's very powerful. So, again, folks, we wrap these stories around our experiences. So it starts, like you said, with becoming aware, and then at some point you give yourself a different story. You know, you give yourself a different story, because at the end of the day, you know, if you were to give your experience to, 1,000 different people, by the time it gets to that 1,000th person, the story would have changed anyway, and perhaps the experience would have changed. It's hard to glean from experience, like you said, childhood. It's hard to glean the gold from childhood experiences that may or may not have been traumatic when we have all these crazy stories we tell ourselves about it. And we're not even talking about lying to yourself. We're talking about just telling a different story.
It's like playing telephone. You start at one part of the circle, and someone says something, and that person passes it on and passes it on, passes it on. And by the time you get back to the original person, what the line, the paragraph, whatever it is, has completely changed.
Right.
Because something changes along the way. So with all the information that we take in, is it any wonder that I cannot remember what somebody said to me at 3 o'clock when I was 9? But it might be why my life is functioning the way it's functioning. So I may have to dig back and give. And you know what the great thing about going backward is that with the adult mind and consciousness, you can let go of some things that are in your store closet that you didn't even think you had in there. You can forgive things some things you can really quickly forgive. You're like, oh, that was just crazy so-and-so.
Very true, very true.
And get rid of some of the bulk.
Decompress and let it go, Let it go, definitely.
Yeah, Ricky Byers has a great song, I Release and I Let Go.
Yes. You have to let go. Now, I want to make I don't really want to shift the conversation. I just want to expand it. Rev, you have a book coming out in late May, right?
I do. The book is called The Dig, the D-I-G, 101 Questions in Consciousness.
Yes.
So, that, and I really hope that folks go out and get the book, because in terms of doing the work, uncovering the self, I think the book will be very useful, because we don't really ask ourselves questions. And it's the question. Mm-hmm. The question will lead you to the answer, because, Bishop Pearson always says that in every question, there's a seed of an answer. Mm-hmm. So once you start to ask these questions, you wait a minute, I didn't even know I thought that way. Mm-hmm. So, questions have always been a way to sort of to crack the surface of any challenge. You continue to ask yourself what, why, who, when, where, all the way down to the root. Mm-hmm. So that's what the book is about. It has a series of questions, 101 questions, and one of the early readers of the book said to me, you said there's 101 questions, but there are more questions in here. Well, there are actually 101 multi-part questions. Yeah,
it's true, and that's the way our mind functions. We're constantly thinking like that. There's questions within questions. It's an infinite number. And where can we get a hold of that book? What's your website?
Well, you'll be able to get it's late May. You'll be able to get the book at www.adtretreat.com. It'll also be available on Amazon in late May.
Mm-hmm. And ADT stands for A Different Thought, right? The name of the...
Different Thought. Our community is A Different Thought, a community church for conscious living. Mm-hmm. And please, to listeners, wherever you are, come and visit us. We're there every Sunday at 11 o'clock in Decatur.
Mm-hmm. So what else is going on at ADT, Rev?
Well, Jesse, as you know, because Jesse has kindly, and we're so excited about this, agreed to be one of our teachers, we have started the Kairos Institute, Institute for Progressive Spiritual Study, and we're really excited about that. And the Kairos Institute was born out of really the women and men in our congregation that have this great potential for spiritual leadership. I kept looking around and thinking, oh, my gosh, these people are ministers, they're practitioners, they're teachers, they're coaches, they're counselors. And once or twice somebody would, express an interest in ministry. And so we thought about it, and I said, geez, this leadership that's in our midst can really be magnified, and it can really change the world. And I wanted a program that was similar to some of the programs that they had in the North. And I said, well, this is the time. So it's Kairos. In Greek there are two words for time, chronos and kairos. Kairos is sort of an opportune time.
Right.
And some people go as far as to say it's the time when God actually intervenes in the life of human beings. So we say Kairos, the time is now. So we really wanted to do that. And so we started out a couple of years ago thinking about a 6-month program. And then we started to unfold, and teachers started to show up, and people like you agreed to teach, and we were like, oh my goodness, we're just blown away by the love and the support that we began to get. The right teachers started to show up, and the program began to sort of really take a life of its own. And so now we are starting our introductory program in September. We have 2 programs going on. It's the first year, the practitioner program, and the second year is a ministerial program that leads to ordination. So what happens is if you take the 2 years, you become a practitioner first, and then you go on to do your ministerial studies in second year. And if you decide that practitioner work is enough for you, holding the room, prayer, maybe some spiritual counseling, then you stop there, and you can, of course, always come back and finish up and go through ordination. But I'm really excited. We have some fantastic world religion teachers. Jesse, you're coming to do some psycho-spiritual work for us. We have transformative teachers. We have breath and body work. It's going to be an amazing time. So we're excited.
Yes, I'm excited too. You're doing some great things out there at ADT. Rev, we have about a minute left and a half. I definitely want to go ahead and tell you thank you so much for coming. And folks, if you can, when that book comes out, you'll hear it here. And also, where can we follow you at social networking wise?
Oh, please do visit me on Facebook. Actually, you can go directly to my Facebook page and friend me. I'll friend you back. It's Rowena Silvera on Facebook. We also have an ADT Facebook page, which is A Different Thought on Facebook. And we also, probably at the end of this week, will have one for the Kairos Institute. So you'll be able to go on the Kairos Institute, or you can always visit our website for all of this information. We are at www.adtretreat.com. and send us a little note or fill out one of our boxes. We can add you to our list. We do a Course in Miracles study every Monday morning. It'll pop up in your inbox. We've been doing that for about a year, and it's a fantastic community, great people. Shout out to my ADT family. They're just a fantastic group of loving people. So we look forward to seeing you, if not in person, then on the web.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks, and thank you again, Rev Ro. Her latest book, The Dig, 101 Questions in Consciousness, will be available late May. Thanks so much for tuning in to Living on Purpose. And if you'd like to help sponsor this program, send me an email. You can find it on the web at www.unity.fm. And if you would like to contribute to Unity as well, just go to unity.fm and click on Contribute. Thanks for joining us this week. This has been Jesse Herriott, encouraging you to live on purpose.
Thank you for tuning in to Living on Purpose, where psychology meets spirituality with Jesse Herriott. Listen in live every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Central Time for more insights into psychology, ancient wisdom, and how it connects to your life today. Living on Purpose, only on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world. This program is brought to you in part by www.jesseherriott.com, where psychology meets spirituality. Connect with us on Facebook and YouTube. Keyword search Jesse Herriott.
How's life working for you? Would it be okay with you if it got easier, simpler, yet more meaningful, more vibrant? Join Reverend Carla McClellan Tuesday afternoons for spiritual coaching, creating a vibrant life. Each week, Carla visits with leading-edge coaches as they explore the sacred purpose and stunning results of this exciting and emerging coaching model. Together, they reveal the secrets and successes of this transformational process. Call in and join the discussion as Carla creates a safe and sacred space to dialogue about real life and real-world transformations. That's spiritual coaching, living a vibrant life with Reverend Carla McClellan. Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, right here on Unity FM, the voice of an awakening world.
Inspiration only takes a moment. If you are able to safely turn your attention away from the demands of your activities, quiet your mind and affirm, "There is a divine plan at work in my life. I now relax, let go, and let it unfold." Listen attentively, inwardly, without projecting any thoughts about what you think should happen or be experienced. Become as a child, trusting and receptive to the guidance of Spirit within.
This meditative moment, adapted from Mary Kupferle's God Will See You Through, is brought to you by Unity.
"12 Keys to Freedom, A Path to Metaphysical Recovery," takes an expanded view of the concept of recovery, unifying universal spiritual teachings and the 12-step process in a powerful hour of discussion, process, and transformation. In life, we have challenges that are beyond the realm of simple dependence: divorce, child abuse, unhealthy relationships, eating disorders, teenage bullying, the loss of a loved one, as well as addictions of all kinds. The 12 Keys to Freedom offers a path to wholeness by using a technology developed by Esther Nicholson, an agape spiritual practitioner, educator, world-renowned vocalist, and former addict. Her life story exemplifies the realization of wholeness from conditions of the most challenging kind. 12 Keys to Freedom takes us on a path from powerlessness to empowerment, moving to a realization of our inherent God-given wholeness, no matter who we are, what we have done, or how challenging our life experience has been. Join Esther Nicholson each Monday at 1 p.m. Central Time for 12 Keys to Freedom, a path to metaphysical recovery, right here on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.